Merry Meet Witches, it's Graybeard Crowfather here again. I apologize about not doing the video last night. We had a little bit of a meltdown last night at work, so I wasn't able to get a video up for y'all, so I figured I'd put one up tonight. Not going to go over two things tonight. We're going to go over in-depth for Yule and in-depth for shadow work. And one thing for one person who asked me that was wondering about it, I bought a box of the Mandalorian cereal from General Mills, and it tastes like Trix with little green marshmallows in it. So that's your review of the Mandalorian cereal if you're gonna buy some. Okay, let's get started. Yule. Yule usually takes place at the end of the wheel of the year, usually between December 20th and 23rd. It all depends on where it falls for that year, but it's usually in that time frame. And Yule is the time of the year when the goddess gives birth, sometimes known as the star child, most commonly known as the god. And that is the time of the year when the darkness is the longest and the daylight is the shortest. So what a lot of people do is they'll celebrate Yule and stay up all night long until the next morning when the sun starts to come up. And some people consider that the birth of the god. Some people just consider the entire day the birth of the god. It all depends on how you want to look at it. It's totally up to you. With Yule, you'll notice that it falls at a time of the year around when Christianity celebrates Christmas. And this is due to the Christians actually adapting and adopting Yule from other pagan cultures so that they could draw more pagans into the Christian religion. Certain gods of different pantheons were born in and around December 20th, 23rd, 25th. One god I have always read about for December was Mithras. So the Christians said, "Oh, hey, let's adopt that into our religion, and we can draw more pagans in. They'll worship our god who was born on the 25th." A lot of the Christians also adopted a lot of the pagan traditions, such as the Christmas tree inside the house, the Yule log, mistletoe. All these all have actual deep-seated pagan roots at some point or another. I'm not going to get into specifics about them, but they actually do have pagan roots. And again, were adapted by Christians for Christmas. A lot of people have different Yule traditions. I personally tend to do a couple things. It's similar to what you would do at Christmas time. We do exchange gifts with our family and friends and our circle members, and they exchange gifts with us. We decorate the house with holly and poinsettias and any, pagan symbolism that we can find that we think represents Yule. Then at the time of the ritual that we do, we actually do a circle ritual, and then we go outside and we burn a Yule log. Now, what we do with that is we decorate the log, put, when they get it doesn't matter, it could be this big, it could be this big, doesn't matter, it's totally personal to you. We drill 3 holes into the log and we put candles and decorate it with ribbons and pine cones and whatnot. And then at the end of the ritual, we'll burn that Yule log. And we always save a small piece of that burned up Yule log. Usually it's like a sliver about that long or something like that big, so that we can actually take it and tie it to the Yule log for the next season. So we'll put that little sliver of the log away somewhere safe. Come next Yule, decorate the log again, add that piece of wood to the Yule log that we're going to be using for that year, and then burn that, and then grab another piece, and so on and so forth. It's a continuous circle we do every year. So as far as Yule is concerned, you're free to celebrate it in whatever way that you wish, with the main theme of it just, celebrating the birth of the god. So, and speaking of that, Yule is coming up in, what is today? Today's November 5th. Yeah, so you got about a month and 20 days or so. I'm pretty beat, so my brain's not working with math tonight. Okay, the second topic that I'm going to cover tonight is shadow work. I see a lot of people wondering about or asking about shadow work. Shadow work is not a integral part of Wicca. It's not something that you have to do, but a lot of people end up doing it because it makes you better for it. Shadow work is getting to know your darker half. That's why it's mainly referred to as shadow work. And working with that darker half allows you to improve that darker half. What you would want to do with shadow work is you want to be able to address addictions, anxiety, disorders, depression, and self-limits. There's more, but those are just some examples of what you can use shadow work to address. Some of the ways that you can actually, one of the tools that you can actually use to get into the shadow work is a journal. You can keep a record of when you're going to start working in shadow work, and it gives you important patterns and what to look for when you're doing shadow work. And that way, when you're on your next shadow work session, you can take those patterns and use them to find ways to improve yourself. So find something in your life that you know that is negative and that you want to use shadow work to improve upon, and then document that, and then working with the shadow work, find a way to actually do the opposite of that negative. Say you come home from work or school or whatever the case may be, and you find yourself tense and uptight and nervous and scared for some reason. When you're doing shadow work, you can do the opposite of that. Let yourself relax and let loose. It's not gonna kill you to be carefree for a day, and then you can actually take that time and reflect upon it and add it into your shadow work. Remember to be compassionate to yourself when you're doing shadow work, because you're working to improve yourself in those negative areas. Now, basically what you're doing is you're taking your yin and your yang and you're comparing the two and finding a way to make those two mesh and gel together so that things will be better for you. Just be aware that shadow work is not easy. You're going to find that you actually hate it because it's going to expose to yourself the darkest and worst traits about yourself. But doing that will allow you to take that and improve yourself and make life better for you. Now, one of the sites that I often refer to, I can't remember the top of it off my head, but it gives you a few steps that you can go through. Identify. So identify what your shadows are. Accept your shadows and realize that those are a part of you for this point in time. That's what you're going to work on so that those parts will no longer be a bother to you, but actually a boon to you in some way or another. Love. You're going to bring the light side of yourself to that shadow and use it to mold or turn that shadow from a negative into a positive. And then integrate. you're going to see the value of your shadow and how they can help you to make better decisions in your life. Sort of like you may hear that little voice in your head, that conscience. You think you may be going to make a bad choice or decision. That's where some of the shadow work can come into play. So I'm not going to get into specifics because there's tons and tons and tons of books and videos and websites and even clinics that will work with you in doing your shadow work. I'm not going to recommend any. That's up to you. You need to find what works best for you when it comes to doing your shadow work, whether you're going to do it by yourself, maybe with another person. Could be a therapist if you needed to use a therapist. It doesn't have to be. It could just be a friend or a family member. Or if you're going to do it in a group, you can do it with a circle or a coven if you're in one. I'm sure there's someone that's probably gone through it already and will be willing to help you confront that and do the shadow work with you. So that leads me up to the homework for this week. That's what I want you to do, is take a look at shadow work. You don't have to do it, but research it and see if that would be something that you're willing to do. It doesn't have to be, today or tomorrow, but down the road, because it can actually improve your life. That's all I have for tonight. Hopefully everybody's not run down and worn out from this election, because that's one of the things that's been making me pretty tired over the past couple days. I'm sick of it. I just want it to be over with and done, because it's actually tearing this country apart in some places, and it's terrible to see. But enough politics. Everybody have a good night. Graybeard Crowfather signing off. Blessed be.